If the Supreme Court forbids the use of race and ethnicity in college admissions, the opinion may begin the restoration of our nation's constitutional, colorblind legal covenant.
Where would we be today if we didn't have affirmative action?
We would be in a lot worse position than we are.
In the summer of 2023, the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in college admissions.
Affirmative action really gave us an equal opportunity.
They don't understand how important that is for us to break out of the cycle that we've been in.
Creating uncertainty for Black and Latino high school students chasing an opportunity that could change their lives.
I want them to have the opportunity that I never had. I don't want them to be working 12, 13 hours like their dad did.
Why do you think we needed affirmative action? To try to help people catch up and get on a level playing field.
I don't think it's a bad thing if poor whites now benefit from affirmative action.
Same, but if your goal is diversity,
yes,
you're not going to get there.
I'm Soledad O'Brien. Heckinger Report and I teamed up with CBS Reports to examine what the highest court's monumental decision means for the next generation.
Since I was little, I knew that college was the ticket to break this cycle that our family has been in for generations and generations of not being educated, and because of that having to work with their backs instead of their brains.
Emily Rodriguez, the daughter of Mexican immigrants, is a straight-A student at Conrad School of Science, a magnet school in Wilmington, Delaware, that specializes in STEM education.
I've always wanted to be a veterinarian. I loved helping people, but most of all, I love animals. We just need to add the 0.15 to the hanging. I can't see myself doing anything else, and to achieve that, you need a degree.
In her senior year of high school, Emily is taking AP classes and interning in her community to bolster her college applications. But unlike her peers at school, she sometimes doubles as both student and teacher.
Raise your hands if you guys have heard of an Ivy League school in the past. You know of them, you know what they are.
Emily runs her school's First Generation Scholars Club.
These are the 8 Ivy Leagues.
An organization she created with her older sister, and now leads.
So you've just come from a meeting of the First Generation Scholars Club. What is it?
We talk everything from financial aid to college admissions, summer programs, what classes to take now, everything to get the basis of how college admissions works and how they can navigate it as first generation students.
How old are you?
I'm 17.
What's the goal of the club? What were you hoping to do?
The goal is to increase understanding in my school and see more students that look like me, that have the same background as me, commit to these elite institutions.
Emily is applying to Cornell, an Ivy League school. Her sister Ashley, who founded the First Gen Club with her, is attending Emory University in Georgia. For decades, both of the elite schools have aggressively recruited kids from underrepresented groups, considering the race and ethnicity of the applicants to combat discrimination and increase campus diversity. But that may be about to change.
In a 6-3 decision, the justices ruled that Harvard University and the University of North Carolina violated the Constitution.
In a historic ruling, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned 50 years of precedent and decided a student must be treated based on his or her experiences as an individual, not on the basis of race, effectively ending what's known as affirmative action.
What is affirmative action?
Initially, it was intended to help overcome years, decades, even centuries of anti-Blackness, of discrimination and the subjugation of people of color in this country.
David Hinojosa defended the University of North Carolina's affirmative action practices before the Supreme Court.
Over the years, affirmative action is intended to provide universities the opportunity to have a holistic admissions plan, which means that they consider various characteristics of students, from extracurricular activities to grades to test scores, but it also includes race, because race remains relevant.
I think there are people who would say, so affirmative action is a way for people of color who are not qualified to get into jobs or maybe schools.
Even during the trials, there was zero evidence that any of those students should not have gotten in on their own talents.
Until 1976, the numbers of students of color in colleges were so low the U.S. government didn't even count them. Today, schools are more diverse, but numbers are still low at the top colleges, the ones that admit less than 25% of their applicants, and produce a quarter of the U.S. Senate, 3/4 of the Supreme Court justices, and the majority of the nation's Fortune 500 CEOs. Even with affirmative action in play, just 7% of students at top colleges are Black, even though twice that many, 14%, are of college age. 15% are Latino, even though their college-age population is 23.4%, the fastest-growing youth demographic in the U.S. McKinsey research on nonprofit colleges found that even with affirmative action, it would take almost 70 years for these institutions' student bodies to reflect the demographics of the U.S. population in terms of the number of historically underrepresented students in each class.
We have so much history behind us as people of color, so much history, like such a strong past. So why would we be put at the same level as somebody whose family has been here for centuries and have benefited off of the harm done to communities of color?
Affirmative action ends up helping a relatively small number of students, and yet there are, tens of thousands of white men who feel like they've been wronged by affirmative action.
Richard Collenberg, a non-resident scholar at Georgetown University, testified against continuing to allow affirmative action.
You wrote a book in 1996, and the theory underlying that book was that race-based affirmative action had, and this is a quote, set back race relations by becoming a source of racial antagonism. What does that mean?
Well, I think that in this country, because affirmative action focused on race rather than class, there were a lot of working class people who felt left behind by the policies and alienated by those policies. And it's something that a lot of people have recognized over the years.
Where would we be today if we didn't have affirmative action historically?
We would be in a lot worse position than we are. So as bad as things are today, they're still better than what they were.
Margarita and Rafael Rodriguez immigrated from Mexico when they were teenagers. Rafael makes a living as a truck driver, and Margarita is a translator at a community clinic. Neither graduated from college.
I want them to have the opportunity that I never had. And also because I know that life after education will be a lot easier for them. I don't want them to be working 12, 14 hours like their dad did.
Margarita and Rafael are determined that all three of their daughters go to college.
Ashley is my quiet girl. She's the shyest of all three. Emily, she has her own ideas. She's always trying to do best for herself, but she's also very, very stubborn. Brianna, she is not into the teens yet, so I'm trying to enjoy it as much as I can. Tortillas are ready. Just do it.
Already? So I'm running late or what?
I always like to tell them that this is a teamwork. If one of them is doing good, then we all happy and we all celebrate together.
Their eldest, Ashley, is already there. She was accepted to Emory University in Oxford, Georgia in 2023. The last class admitted before affirmative action was struck down.
It's a beautiful campus.
It is really nice. I felt like I was right at home. I felt very homey to me. It felt like I belonged. Everybody is so welcoming here.
Emory admitted no Black students until the 1960s, when affirmative action first began.
I try not to bother her a lot because I know she also needs her time, but a dad likes to FaceTime her. He needs to see her face.
What's up, buddy? What are you doing?
I'm at a lake house. Look, there's a bonfire inside of the house, and we're gonna read poems.
Oh, wow, so excited. Like, I want to be there so bad.
Yeah, me too.
Ashley's school, Oxford College of Emory University, is 11% Black and 9% Latino, while the state of Georgia is 33% Black and 11% Latino.
Now that the Supreme Court has made what I believe to be a regressive political decision, we're really going to see some wide-reaching effects.
Chelsea Holly used to counsel students at Emory. Now she's director of admissions at Spelman College, one of the historically Black colleges and universities created because Black students were being kept out of higher education.
On the HBCU side, we're expecting more interest. Applicant behavior will likely change as well. So if Black high school seniors no longer feel like they are welcomed on predominantly white campuses, they are less likely to apply, and they're less likely to enroll even if they are offered admission. We want to make sure that students are not only selecting an institution because it will look good on their resume for that first job, but that you're finding somewhere that you can actually come alive.
People don't see you on the application.
Timothy Parker graduated from Hampton University, an HBCU. His son Hamza is applying to college.
The college admissions officers, they just won't know the type of individual that he is. They just won't be able to, see him in his full light and his full capability and what he can accomplish and what he's already accomplished.
Hamza has a 3.5 GPA, just about average for his first choice school, Union College, where he's applying early decision. Union is under 9% Black, but they accept 50% of their applicants.
Yeah, I remember that one.
That's when we took her to drop her off at school.
I feel like affirmative action really gave us an equal opportunity because the United States is based off of historical oppression from the start, so it was unequal for us to get a job and education. So I feel like without affirmative action right now, it'll probably be harder.
If the Supreme Court forbids the use of race and ethnicity in college admissions, the opinion may begin the restoration of our nation's constitutional, colorblind legal covenant.
Edward Bloom, a conservative legal strategist, has filed 24 lawsuits since the 1960s against affirmative action and voting rights. He founded Students for Fair Admissions, which spearheaded the litigation that ultimately led to the Supreme Court overturning affirmative action. Richard Kallenberg was an expert witness for Bloom's side.
I testified that racial diversity is very important to have on campus, but that Harvard and the University of North Carolina could achieve robust levels of racial diversity using economic affirmative action rather than race-based affirmative action.
If you're looking at social class money, really, and we know that while poverty rates among Blacks and Hispanics are higher in pure numbers, there are more poor white students. So couldn't there be a scenario where looking at socioeconomic class actually just benefits more poor white students? Doesn't that literally undermine the strategy of trying to increase racial diversity?
Well, I would say three things quickly. One is, I don't think it's a bad thing if poor whites now benefit from affirmative action. I think that's a good,
but I mean, if your goal is diversity,
yes,
you're not going to get there.
So that would be the first point. Second point would be that you can expand the number of slots that go to working class people. You don't have to say that we're going to keep the same number of affirmative action slots, expand the number of slots, in part by getting rid of legacy preferences and all the preferences that benefit wealthy students. Third thing I would say is that it's extremely important to recognize that low-income whites and low-income Black and Hispanic people face different sets of obstacles. And so one of them has to do with wealth.
In fact, students from the richest 1% are more than twice as likely to attend the nation's elite colleges than kids from middle-class families with similar or even higher SAT scores. Emily is applying early decision to Cornell, but it's a big gamble for this working-class family. If she gets in early decision, she must accept whether her family can pay or not.
You guys are leaders, right? Like, there's so many things that demand your leadership, your intellect, your excellence, your brilliance right now. I don't want y'all to be on the sidelines.
Emily's parents persuaded a nonprofit program called Teen Sharp to work with their daughters. Its founders, Atenray Aline and his wife, Tatiana Paladko, work with about 500 Black and Latino students as early as the 8th grade. Ashley went to Emory on a full ride, and the Rodriguez say they're hoping Emily gets help as well.
For Teen Sharp, it's not just going to college. We're relentless about making sure they're on the best financial terms possible.
If you had to put a price tag on the resources that you are giving to families, what would it be?
It would probably cost at the market value to get these kind of services $20,000 plus to get the wraparound support that our students get at Teen Sharp.
Money plays a big role in African American students going to college. I went to school. I didn't have any scholarship. I found a way, though. I found a way. And it took me some time, I'm still paying student loans now. I'm 55.
Following the Supreme Court decision, conservative law firms are now going after scholarships based on race that could help reduce the need for student loans. And they've set their sights on programs at less competitive colleges that benefit students of color.
Even though the focus has been on these elite institutions, will it impact students who are going to a non-elite school?
It could potentially impact those universities if those universities end up overreacting to the decision and changing their policies to limit student access. That absolutely should not happen.
After losing affirmative action at the state level, the University of California increased its outreach budget from $60 million to $120 million. And the University of Texas automatically admitted a percentage of the state's top high school students. Yet both plans failed to reach the levels of diversity they saw with affirmative action.
The court did hold that students may still raise their own racial experiences in light of their application. And that's incredibly important because many of our students testified about the importance of being able to tell about their story.
Right, a lot of these colleges are still very traditional in looking at GPA grades, right? And so it's critical that your essay speaks to your story, right?
Teen Sharp has been working with Hamza since he started high school. Their work with his older sister Hassana helped her get into elite Pomona College when affirmative action still existed.
I feel like even though they took away affirmative action, you still have to talk about your race in some way. Race to you is your identity, in my opinion. It depicts on where you came from and like how you react to certain things. People put it into like a bad light, but I feel like you should be proud of who you are.
David Hinojosa saw firsthand what happens when colleges don't consider race when admitting students.
You're an alum of the University of Texas Law School, and that state had banned affirmative action before the Supreme Court's most recent decision. How did you see that impacting your graduating class?
When I got there were only 26 Latinos in a class of over 400. And remember, this is Texas. 2 years before me, there were 72 Latinos in the class. There were over 40 Black students in the class 2 years before me. In my class, there were four African Americans. And that's just downright shameful.
But a short-term solution to a long-term problem. Even though we were historically oppressed in the past, we should have more opportunities to get into these higher education platforms, like the Ivy Leagues in general. I'm mad about it, but I feel like to a point I'm kind of numb to like the sensation of like consistently attacking us. I feel like I'm used to it now for the 6 years I've been here. But I feel like we all should be mad about it.
When people debate affirmative action, I always ask them, the why. Why do you think we needed affirmative action? Because people were set back so far that they needed to put laws in place to try to help people catch up and get on a level playing field.
How do you feel the admissions officers are taking this information? Are they nervous? Are they panicked? Are they restructuring?
All of that rolled into one, frankly. And it's because people like Ed Bloom have sent nasty grams to these universities, threatening to bring another lawsuit if they don't go to completely race-blind admissions. So there's been a lot of work that we've done ourselves as the civil rights community to ensure that they understand how this decision can be appropriately limited so they don't overreact.
For colleges, it's an institutional choice, right? If they wanted to have more racial diversity, they would have more racial diversity. It's not magic. It's kind of just math and strategy. And so if you don't have racial diversity, at the end of the day, it's because that university is really not committed to it. Is that true?
I think that's basically true. And if it's not providing the resources necessary to support working class, Black and Hispanic students and white and Asian students, then it's making a choice that it doesn't want to invest in these students.
What are your hopes for Emily Rodriguez as we get closer to really the day she'll find out in December?
She's going to go to a wonderful school. I'm confident about that. But I know from years of doing this work that if they get rejected at that early decision, it's there's an emotional dynamic, it's a letdown. So my dream for her is that in a few weeks, right, we hear wonderful news for her.
Just like Hamza and his sister, the Rodriguez sisters find themselves on opposite sides of the historic Supreme Court decision on affirmative action. Ashley got into Emory when it existed. Emily's fate will be decided without it.
I think about December and I think about enjoying Christmas, knowing what school I'm gonna go to.
Hopefully, my parents don't have to worry about the money. And knowing that all the hard work that I've done, it paid off. I've been looking at this goal and being able to finish it early and do it right with no debt, with none of that having to weigh over me, it's a dream.
1, 2, 3.